Hello everybody and welcome to week 7 of the PBL. I am head coach of the Saffron City Sneasels, Evan, and this week I've got a battle for you with Zache of the Porygon-Zed. This is a very good match, so let's get into it. So Zache has quite a mighty team. Thank you, Dan, for trading one of the best Pokemon, Ash Greninja, to the team that already had Magirno. That's very fair. That's very fair. So he opens up with his Crawdad Man, the Tentacruel, and I opened with my Eraserhead just because I wasn't exactly sure what he was going to go for, and it was going to be kind of a safe lead because I could probably U-turn out. His team is actually really slow. Zache has maybe the slowest team in the league. Adding Ash Greninja does change that a bit, but still pretty slow. So he went out for the substitute here. I wasn't sure exactly what he was going for. I think maybe he was just trying to play it safe and see if he could get a free hit off, and he goes for the knockoff. I have a Colbur Berry this week to prevent specifically a knockoff. Colbur Berry just shuts down knockoff completely because you eat the berry before you take the knockoff damage. So the damage is reduced and they don't get the damage boost for knocking off an item. So I go out to the Earthquake, which is super effective against the Tentacruel, and because of this he's going to have to switch out because he cannot take another one. I brought Earthquake for a few reasons. Several Pokemon on his team are weak to ground moves, and the one thing that is not weak to a ground move, Celesteela, I have some other things up my sleeve for. I expected him to go to Celesteela, so I double switch here, and I come out to the Canker Sisters, my Hydreigon. And Hydreigon has a Flamethrower with an Expert Belt that's going to do a lot of damage. It did even more than I expected, though, so either that was a high roll, or he was not specially invested or HP invested as much as I had expected. He goes out for the Toxic, though, which kind of contradicts the theory that he doesn't have HP investment, but I actually never really find out one way or the other. I don't get confirmation on that. So now that I'm poisoned, it's not the biggest deal because Hydreigon isn't really a sweeper this week. It's more just, I guess you would say, it's sort of like a stopgap Pokemon. It fills various super effective needs for the team and can resist certain things, but he's not core to the team. He's just he's nice to have. So he goes out to the Slowbro. He brought it out into the... oh no, that was a double switch, I believe, yeah. So, actually, I'm not sure. It's hard to tell when watching your battle back because you don't always see when the turn begins and when the turn ends. So we have quite a few double switches going on here. He switched out the Slowbro, I switched out the Dhelmise, I bring out the Charizard into the Celesteela, and he has to switch out again. So these were a series of, I think, double switch into double switch, so things are going very well for me. Unfortunately, I get greedy here, is what I will say. Because I had him on the back foot for like 2 straight switches, I thought maybe he'd stay in and just let the Celesteela die to a fire move, and because of that, I Mega Evolve, and you'll see here I go for the Dragon Dance, which was greedy, because a +1 Charizard will not be able to kill the Hippowdon, and I don't want to stay in and have to wait for a 2-hit KO, especially because I'm running Flare Blitz this week. So with a Flare Blitz, I would deal about 80%, and then I would take Recoil, and after the Recoil, an Earthquake would actually kill. So I kind of wasted a turn there Dragon Dancing, which is a mistake on my part. I go out to the Dhelmise expecting the Earthquake because even if it's obvious, you kind of have to go for it when you're facing a +1 Charizard. You don't have the luxury of making a bold prediction there. He gets the critical hit on the Davy Jones, and because the Sandstream is up, I cannot Synthesis right now and get my full half HP. I'd only get a third right now. So instead, I think I'm just going to go out for the Power Whip here, and I do. I miss the attack, which doesn't really matter because he ×4 resists anyway, so it was going to do negligible damage. And that's okay. So the Celesteela, I do have to get out of there for because I don't know his whole set yet, but I don't want to be toxic because this thing's meant to be a tank. So I go out to the Hydreigon, who's already toxic, and he goes out to the Leech Seed. So he was clearly expecting a switch. I think having seen Power Whip and Earthquake, he probably assumed one of my moves was Rapid Spin, which is correct. And maybe he assumed my last move was a recovery move, and if he did make those predictions, he was right, so I had nothing to touch the Celesteela. He goes out to the Crawdad Man, and I go for the Flamethrower, which is an obvious move, but I want to get him out of there. And again, I'm kind of just thinking, like, how much does he care about the Celesteela? Will he let the Celesteela die here? Let's see. So he goes out to the Crawdad Man, which is actually great for me, because I have another move on my Tanker Sisters, which will be able to secure the KO. And that move is Earthquake. You'll see that an Infestation actually goes first, because my Hydreigon has almost no speed. Actually, yeah, I think has 0 speed EVs. That is because his team is very slow, like I said before. I kind of underrated how fast Tentacruel was. I think Tentacruel has 100 speed. But it doesn't matter, because the Infestation does nothing after I kill him. And then I take some more Toxic Tick damage. Again, I have Earthquake, because a lot of things are weak to the Earthquake on his team. He goes out to the Ash Greninja. I have to switch out, because I'm not going to give him a free Battle Bond. On top of that, he doesn't have hazards on my side of the field, so a 34 or 35 HP Hydreigon still has a lot of value for my team, because with no speed investment, he's still going to outspeed most of his team, and I've got a super effective move for almost everybody he has left. So he goes for the U-turn expecting me to switch, which was correct, and I went out to the Melodic. He doesn't really have a good answer to the Melodic other than just statusing me, and I kind of know that. He goes out to the Slowbro, and I can't hurt the Slowbro, it can't hurt me, but he can probably Toxic me or something, so I'm going to just switch on out of there. And he goes for the Toxic. So I do end up having to concede some status to my Dhelmise, which is unfortunate, but it's a fair trade to preserve the Melodic, because a Melodic being healthy is far more important than the Dhelmise at this point in the game, because Ash Greninja is a force to be reckoned with if you sleep on it. Because there's no Sandstorm, I'm going to finally get my Synthesis up. I'm also faster with, I do have a little bit of speed investment. I think it was specifically to outspeed, what was I trying to outspeed? I forget, but he didn't bring it. It might have been Hippowdon, it might have been Tyranitar. There was a good amount of speed investment either way. So, but even uninvested, I outspeed the Slowbro. So I go out to the Eraserhead making a prediction here. And he does go for another Shadow Ball, probably just trying to chip down my thing. Because if I keep just trying to Synthesis and he keeps trying to Shadow Ball, the Toxic is going to allow him to win that trade. He stays in here, which is a little surprising, but I did not rule it out. Hold on one second. If you guys can hear that really loud humming, that is my furnace. We got a new furnace, and it is very loud and distracting, but I don't want to pause the commentary because that means I would also have to pause the battle, and I'm not watching it on the Google Drive, I'm watching it off my DS, and it's just complicated. So I go out to Jirachi to be immune to a Toxic, and then I get my Stealth Rocks up. He stays in, presumably to go with a Shadow Ball, but I am max HP, max special defense, because with this set specifically, there is nothing that Magearna can do to Jirachi. Jirachi's actually a really good counter to Magearna, and I'm going to follow up with a Thunder Wave, because I don't have a way to really hurt Slowbro, but he doesn't really have a way to hurt me other than maybe just try to Scald Burn me, which is what he tries to do. He tries to Scald Burn me because I think he knows that I can't hurt him, and he doesn't want to switch out if he doesn't have to, I think. That's probably what he's going for. But I get my Paralyze, I get my Rocks, Jirachi's sort of done its job, and it's going to switch out now. And I'm going to go back out to Dhelmise, because I'm already Toxic, so I can't be Scald Burned. I can Synthesis, and I can eventually Power Whip if I so choose. He goes for the Scald, I take it very well. And I kind of have to heal up here, which is obvious, but need to keep this thing alive with the Slowbro. I mean, I do have other answers for the Slowbro, but they're getting weaker. My Hydreigon has low HP, but he does have Dark Pulse. My Greninja has U-turn, but as you saw earlier, this thing seems to have maybe max defense, so it's only doing about a quarter to a third. So keeping this thing alive is important. He gets out the Celesteela, which is fine by me. It is a free switch for him, but I don't really fear Celesteela with this team. It's just more of an annoyance than it is a threat, especially because it doesn't seem to be a sweeping Celesteela. If this was like an automized type of Celesteela, I'd be a little bit more concerned. I go out to the Charizard, and he goes for the Flamethrower, revealing yet another move on the set. And it's a very fortunate switch for me. He is now going to be threatened by the Flare Blitz, and because of what happened last turn of events, I'm not going to be greedy this time. I am just going to go for the Flare Blitz, and it's going to hit the Chief Beef, and we'll see how much damage this does. The Sandstream does get kicked up, which is going to do a little bit of chip damage. It's going to be a little annoying. And coming out here, this Flare Blitz actually does more damage than I had expected. It does well over half, which tells me that he does not have full defensive investment. Which I guess in hindsight meant that my Dragon Dance might have KO'd the first time, the Dragon Dance Flare Blitz. I'm not sure. But that's all hindsight. He goes out to Ouch My Tail after this, because I think he was even surprised by how much damage the Flare Blitz did, and he wasn't ready to give up his Hippodon. I go out for another Flare Blitz, and it does significantly less damage to the Slowbro, and he's got the Rocky Helmet and the chip damage, and then you got the Sandstorm, and LeCharles is not looking too healthy. But I'm faster, and I know I gotta keep my boy alive, because he is my hard hitter, he is a major threat. He goes right back out to the Chief Beef, maybe, 'cause I'm not exactly sure what he was predicting there, because I hadn't revealed Thunder Punch yet. So I don't think he was trying to go for immunity. I don't know if he just guessed that I had Thunder Punch, which is correct. I do have Thunder Punch on this thing. I'm not really sure what he was going for there. So I just recover, because this guy's got to stay healthy amidst all this chaos, the Sandstorm, the Rocky Helmet. I go for another Flare Blitz because I saw how much the last one did, and it's going to kill. And I secure my second KO of the game. And LeCharles is a little bit below half now. And I'm going to want to find another time to recover, but it will not be now, because I do not want to possibly let Ash Greninja get a Battle Bond. I already have faced Ash Greninja once this season when Dan had it, and I knew from then that Melodic is just the perfect answer. Even if he's running Choice Specs Grass Knot, it doesn't even 2-hit KO. So this thing's just such a good specially defensive wall. I take an okay amount of damage, which kind of tells me that this thing probably is Choice Specs. As you can see, it's doing about maybe a third. And I go for the Light Screen here, because I do have Light Screen specifically for Ash Greninja, but it also helps against Magearna later in the game. And I figured I do need to recover, but I should Light Screen first and then recover to prevent, say, some like Dark Pulse flinch hacks or something. So he has to switch out because he knows he cannot break through my Light Screen, and I'm going to just recover. Playing it slow, playing it safe, keeping Melodic as healthy as possible. And now I do have to switch out. As we learned maybe, I don't know what, 10 turns ago, 15 turns ago. He can't hurt me, but I can't hurt him, and he can eventually status me. So I'm going out to Davy Jones, who's already statused. And at this point, this is basically kind of a lure for Celesteela again, because the only thing that he has to check this thing is the Celesteela. He's seen the Earthquake, so he can't go out to Magearna. And he does just that. He switches out and brings out the Celesteela. And what do I do here? I go for the Synthesis, yes. I just prioritize getting healthy. I need to keep my tanks healthy for his big hard hitters. I generally don't like playing this passively, but I'd say over like these last 3 or 4 games, I feel like my team has been much more on the balanced side as opposed to the hyper offense side. I guess I have drafted a more balanced team than I usually do. Usually I like to draft Pokemon with high speed, high sweep potential. This season, Jacob's kind of the heavy sweeper of the league, and I've been sort of more of the mid-rangey, balanced team. So he goes out for the Earthquake, and I'm glad I did not try to switch out to Charizard to predict another Flamethrower, because that would have really hurt my Charizard, obviously. The Melodic, even though it has no physical defensive investment, I am max HP, and the Earthquake does very little, and I'm just going to Scald here, see if I can get a burn, because he's shown he has Earthquake, he's a physical attacker, at least to some extent. I don't get the burn, he does get the Leech Seed, so I decide I'm not going to try again, because things are going to slowly tip in the scales in his favor now, so there's no reason for me to let the Linguini lose a battle of attrition. I don't remember who I go out to, though. That Leech Seed, bit of an annoyance. And at this point, I do know his whole set. It's Flamethrower, Toxic, Leech Seed, and Earthquake. Pretty well rounded to hit everything, but he's not going to be able to hit anything hard. I go out to the Hydreigon to just sort of sack it off, and if I guess correctly, I'll get a free hit off. And I do guess correctly. It was, in fact, an Earthquake. So I do get at least one free hit before the Toxic kills me. And I could go for the Flamethrower here, or I could go for the Dark Pulse, or I could go for the U-turn. I had a few different options here based on what I wanted to predict. I went for the Flamethrower, though, because I was okay with letting this thing die to Toxic, because I didn't think he would go to Magirna, and if he did, a flamethrower would hurt. If I died to Toxic, Beast Boost does not trigger, but Soul Heart does, which is kind of a weird mechanic. I actually didn't know that until I think maybe it was during the off-season, or like one of our off-season tournaments. I didn't know that Soul Heart boosts just if you die in the area, even though Beast Boost and Moxie need to actually get the KO. So yeah, there was very much, I did not want to let Magirna just switch in and I died to Toxic. So I went for the Flamethrower, even though it was predictable. I let it die to Toxic, and then I come out here with my Charizard. Because I'm neutral to water, and if he Toxics me, that's okay. He misses the first Toxic, which you'll see kind of matters. He gets Toxic on the second turn, and that just means I have one less turn of Toxic ticking before I'm in the kill range for certain Pokemon. So after a Dragon Dance, I do go out for the Thunder Punch, and that is going to get a KO here. This is the first time I had shown Thunder Punch, but I think he might have suspected it. I'm really not sure. But now at +1, the Rocky Helmet, the Toxic, I'm starting to get worn down a little bit. He goes out to the Ash Greninja, which I think was maybe a mistake here. I think he should have gone out to the Magirna, let the Toxic drain down more before he tries to Water Shuriken me. But regardless of that, he misclicks and he doesn't go for the Water Shuriken. He clicked a different move. Water Shuriken was not guaranteed to KO at this point. Water Shuriken was going, if it hit only 3 times, it would not have KO'd. If it hit 4 times, it would have. So he was rolling the dice there. Had he let a different Pokemon die first, either Celesteela or Magirna, he could have brought out the Ash Greninja later and then guaranteed himself a Battle Bond. So I got for the Flare Blitz here, get my KO, and from here it's just basically, there's nothing he can do. He's going to send out his Magirna last, and I am going to die to my own Flare Blitz, but I'm going to take the Magirna down with me, and that is going to be the match. I was happy to see Charles get his, I guess you could sort of call it a sweep. It wasn't a pure 6-0 sweep. He got 5 mods, 4 in a row after a Dragon Dance. Overall, the match went very well for me. I was very much ready for his major threats. He had a couple unfortunate moments throughout the match, including the missed Toxic. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good game. Felt very good about it. That puts me at, I believe, 6-1. Keeping me in second place behind Jacob of the Stantlers. Next week, I take on Greg of the Hydreigon, so tune in next week to watch that match. Alright, you guys, thank you for watching. Goodbye.